if Bruce doesn't change the present, there may not be a future. Here's a look at McFarlane Toys, DC Multiverse, Batman v Superman, Gold Label Collection, Knightmare Batman, and Armor Suit Batman. Gotham City's formidable, forceful vigilante takes on Metropolis's most revered modern-day savior, while a new threat quickly arises, putting mankind in greater danger than it's ever known before. It seems the Kryptonian is always on Batman's mind, whether he's sleeping or not. Before, though, we get down to the details on the Gold Label Collection Batman v Superman, Knightmare Batman, and Armor Suit Batman, the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is take the tape measure and see how tall the figures stand. Found these actually on Amazon for a steal. I was kind of waiting out just to see if there was going to be a price drop on these, and sure enough, there was. Of course, we've already covered off extensively all the other releases of this mold. Both we've gotten two versions of the Armored Suit Batman, and we've already gotten a Knightmare Batman before. And I'll be bringing all of them in a second. First, though, let's get this underway. Let's take the tape measure right to the very top of Knightmare Batman. Because, of course, he's just a retool of the original one, he's going to stand the same. 7 inches in height, or roughly about 18 centimeters tall. Then on to Armor Suit Batman, who's clearly a lot taller. He's actually going to be 7 3/4 of an inch in height, or about 19 centimeters tall. So it does seem that most of the tooling for both these figures is solely in the head. To bring in the original Knightmare Batman, the exact same body, different head though. Of course, it does have now the scarf wrapped around the front of his face. We only kind of see this for a split second in the flashback scene, or the dream sequence scene. Well, the rest of the body, of course, is retained the same. When it certainly comes to the armored Batman, the closest one that we have was the regular release. Same color, same cape for the most part, just a completely retooled head sculpt. There, of course, was also a platinum edition that introduced a little bit of green. We've covered all of these in separate standalone reviews. And, of course, what is the object of Bruce's affection? I wouldn't even necessarily say affection, but here's what the figures look like with the Henry Cavill Superman that paired along with the massive Doomsday. How about the first thing we have a look at is a pair of trading cards. Not a matching pair, mind you. One of the cards for, obviously, is Knightmare Batman. The other one, though, for the Armored Suit Batman. These cards we've actually already gotten before. What's also the same, too, is on the back of these, the read-ups are identical. So if you're going to be reading this section, to flip it over here, you're just going to be wasting your time because you're going to be reading the exact same passage again. Again, like we get these cards, I mean, we've already gotten these cards a couple of times already. I don't mind that they have thrown these in. It just would have been nice, though, if they could have used different artwork, though, featured on the front. Because, again, I think these are exactly the same. They also get, while not come included with these circular display stands, so this would, of course, been the time I would have held up a black stand, tried to pretend I was witty and branded down below the DC logo. A neighboring peg to that would have said plugged into either one of Batman's boots. I can't do that this time around because neither one of these figures come included with display stands. They do somewhat a serviceable stand-in. The figure does come included with a background diorama. Now, if you look real closely, though, you can see that there's a peg here and a peg here, but there doesn't seem to be pegs placed anywhere else on this. So you can have them really close in quarters. You might just end up using the display stand for one of the figures. My only real plan probably is to have the Knightmare Batman displayed on this, because I think the train blends better to that character's flashback rather than the armored Batman, because clearly he's on top of the building. The bottom of this, by the way, is just hollow. They've done a nice enough job, though, of painting it. Again, some could say that it's just a waste of plastic. Again, generally, when it comes to these 2-packs, you usually get things like this. What you may not, though, get usually, though, with some of these standalone figures is weapons. I happen to be happy to report the weapons that the figures come included with sort of do fill in the blanks of all the other figure releases that we've gotten so far tied to Batman v Superman. You know, when we had already looked at the Armored Suit Batman, I'm just kind of pointing over here because that's where he is residing right now. One thing, though, unfortunately was missing for that figure was he didn't come included with his kryptonite grenade gun. I mean, of course, if you're going to be fighting Superman, the thing that you'll need the most is the Kryptonian defense, of course, defeating gun. The thing about it, though, is while it not being included with the original Batman v Superman Armored Batman, at least we do get it with this release. One thing you'll notice, though, right away is that the figures don't come included with the Kryptonite Spear. So again, you're going to have to kind of buy around to other figures to get kind of all the accessories that you'll need. But at least we do get the Kryptonite Grenade Gun, so we're making some progress. It looks to be only molded here in black plastic. Doesn't look at all like they've gone in there and painted any little bit of paint on top of that. You may notice, though, there is a little bit of paint down below here. That's not, though, from Todd and his team. That's actually, though, from the figure's hand, because when I was putting in his hand, some of the paint from the hand scraped off, and you can see some of it down below in the handle. The figure does also come included with his grapple line. A grapple line painted again well in silver. Got the handle in the back in black, and of course the front of that does have the hook. It's not detachable at all. I mean, it's all one piece. But again, if you missed your chance to not get, obviously, these accessories with any of the other figure releases, you sort of can start to fill things in with the accessories that we get included with these two figures here. You get also as well the grenade gun, the little grenade that he has, little pop the pin, and of course throw that. We all know kind of how gas grenades work. Again, it's just all molded here in black plastic. Doesn't get at all afforded a little bit of paint, but again, it doesn't necessarily need that. Of course, he does also come include some swappable hands. You get a closed fist hand, good for punching, of course, Superman's face before he starts to realize he's, wait a minute, Superman's not flinching anymore. Oh no, I'm going to have to start grabbing the grenade gun quickly. So I get one punching hand, you get then, again, one larger gripped hand. Good for really then holding like the grenade gun. You can take the grenade gun, for example. I wouldn't say necessarily it holds the best in this hand, but it's certainly one of the options available. And then, of course, I already have a gripping hand on this side and a gripping hand on this side of the figure's forearms as well. Going to move those all out of the way. I guess maybe before we actually look at the figures themselves, we'll kind of move our focus over to the future, or somewhat of the future. The Knightmare Batman does come included with a couple of guns. The kind of crossbow gun that he has. Mostly, I would imagine, it would be cast here in black plastic, and then they would have done the top of this all in silver. Barely remember him actually using this in the movie. He gets also as well a larger rifle, or machine gun, I would imagine. They've got some tape there on the end and some silver on the other. A little bit of paint, though, goes a long way. And then finally, he also comes included with a pistol, which I believe he actually is using near the end of the sequence. And he's basically just shooting the people around him, and as these parademons are flying down towards him. Now look at this, for example. When was the last time we've actually seen ourselves a gun with a DC Multiverse release? So again, like, you may want to venture off to try to find this set if you can find it for dirt cheap. Let's move this display stand out of the way. We'll kind of focus our efforts, I think, first on Knightmare Batman, and we'll kind of move our attention over to Batman in armored suits. So like the Knightmare Batman, if you already picked up the original one, the one thing, though, that's different is clearly, first of all, he has the scarf on the front of his face. We only see this for only fleeting moments at the beginning of that sequence before the scarf comes down and we see basically Batman's face underneath. Goggles are also down in this instance as well, whereas the pair of goggles on this version of Batman had to be applied separately. Done the reviews for those. The bodies look to be exactly the same. I mean, obviously, you've got more weathering there on the front of his chest. The jacket, by the way, is the exact same, so you could peel the jacket away. You can really see there's some decent sculpting underneath that. The painting, though, again, is faded because it's supposed to be a faded suit that he's wearing in the film. The jacket itself, the only thing I will say, though, about the jacket is one issue I sort of had with this release. I feel like the jacket is way too pale. It should feel, I feel, be a little bit more closer to a light brown color and not necessarily sort of this, I don't know, you would call it like a beige brown? Beige gray. Certainly I feel is way too light. The bodies, though, are exactly the same. The hands are same. Of course, the lower boots as well are all the same. Peg holes on the bottoms of the feet. They have also added the same gray weathering on the bottom, which again, like, I feel like the coloring is really off on this because like the jacket really should still be like a lighter brown. And I feel like down below here, if he's walking through the desert, less gray I feel should be left behind and more kind of like a dark sandier brown. Just to feel like the colors are a little off on this. But overall, though, I like the head sculpt on this, even though, for again, we get so very little of this scene in the film. It's a nice, again, way to incorporate using the same mold again and just finding a new way to tool the head. It's not like a case where just like, this is like sand splattered Batman. That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, at least this one, you could look at a part in the movie and freeze it for, again, like you'd have to freeze it for that second because we only see it for such a split second. But at least it is an argued point as to why a figure like this has to exist. Now, the articulation on this guy is going to be exactly the same as the other, so the head's going to rotate all the way around. There are more limitations, obviously, because the scarf has to be like built to the rest of the neck. So there's a gap space right here where obviously the head is separate from the body, but there's not much of a space. You can probably see right there. So because of that, the head's only going to move up and down by just a very, very small fraction. The head can also move back and forth, and yeah, you can rotate it all the way around. The upper body is also going to be the exact same. You got your upper ball joint there. And the lower ball joint is also accompanying this figure as well in his abdomen. The arms rotate all the way around. You could bring the arms out at a T pose, or a little less maybe perhaps than a T. There's also a swivel in the bicep. Figure does have a double hinge on the elbow, like the same before, and the hands rotate all the way around. Hinge back and forth there too. Legs do split. Again, you have ratcheted joints working behind the scenes. The legs go obviously forward and back. Swivel at the top of the thigh, a double hinge on the knee. No articulation again for the boot, because the boot is just one sculpt continued from the calf. And again, you got your ankle pivot back and forth, and ankle rocker, and you got your toe articulation as well. Love the toe articulation. The thing about it, though, with Knightmare Batman is I've had this issue now with this figure twice. He seems to have an issue kind of standing. It's because they're using like these ratcheted joints where instead of having like a gradual point where you can actually move the ankle, I mean, there's clearly a point where it gets to this, and then when you want to bring it down, it hits like the next ratchet or the next little ledge, but it causes the foot to be on an angle like this that doesn't suit really having the figure standing accurately. Again, neither one of these do come included with display stands, so unfortunately you're sort of just left to kind of balance the figures and hope for the best. I had hope for the best at the beginning of this video, where I got the figure to balance pretty good. I don't know if I can actually get this guy to stand. You know what I might just end up doing, even though the figures don't come included with stands, I just happen to have myself like a stack of these things on the side. Yeah, I'm going to be cheating just a little bit because I know there's a fair bit I want to talk about for Armored Batman, and I don't want Knightmare Batman to fall over. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Armored Batman. The thing I really like about this one, first of all, is it does have Armored Batman near the end of the film, of course, where he's got the cracked helmet. Of course, hilarity ensues. Nobody really likes that scene with Martha. But, though, I do like the fact that we finally get ourselves a cracked helmet of Bruce. If you are, though, familiar, obviously, with this body, or even for that matter, the Platinum Edition, it's pretty much, again, the exact same body. This one, I think, was the darker color. I preferred a little bit more. Like this one, they're going definitely for more of a clear, more shinier silver. Again, like the bodies are going to be exactly the same if you're looking at the two. The thing that's notably the difference between the two is, well, this is the more cleaner, unpunched Bruce. This one clearly has more of the damaged face on the front there. The thing, though, that kind of disappoints me about this head sculpt, though, is if this is near like the end where he's got the kryptonite spear and he really wants to kill Superman, I feel like maybe his face should be a lot angrier than this. Giving him just a neutral expression like this is fine and good, but I feel like really they should have upped the ante and made this guy really ticked off. We're talking like full visible teeth. Not having that, I feel, sort of takes away from what this character is supposed to be based from, or this moment in time when this suit looks like this. The head sculpt, for what we see at least for Bruce Wayne underneath, it's passable. I think it looks enough like him. But I feel like I really would have liked to see what this guy could have looked like with full visible teeth. Of course, with the rest of the body being exactly the same, there's not a whole lot of territory to cover. The dents, the cracks, and all the scratches that were on this release are essentially carried over to this figure as well. The placement, also the cape, seems to be the same, and it's also having that same kind of tattered cape down below. Now, one thing that they've also done, like with the original one, is they've got a wire. Wire starts all the way up here. It runs all the way down. Follow my finger, all the way down to the bottom of the cape. It doesn't have it in the middle, which I'm glad actually that they didn't put it in the middle, because it just always makes the cape feel stiff, like it's covered in starch. Having it only on the wire on the side like this, you can still get dynamic poses. Of course, you can do it a little bit more creative than what I'm doing right now, but it then keeps the cape more relaxed on the bottom. The cape's then free and able to do whatever it wants. The coloring of the cape looks really good. It's still, though, I would have preferred maybe like the silver being a little bit darker than what we get here, but still finally getting ourselves a damaged Batman. It looks fantastic. Doesn't have, though, the kryptonite spear, but we've gotten ourselves the kryptonite spear both with the Henry Cavill Superman Doomsday 2-pack, and we also got it as well with the Platinum Edition Batman. So if you happen to have picked up either one of those sets, you've already got the kryptonite spear twice. For the articulation on this guy is, again, going to be exactly the same. Head's going to have limitations clearly when it comes to rotating it, because, again, he's got the strap bandolier here. Of course, he's got the ledge here on the collar as well. It's going to cause more conflict when you're trying to rotate the head all the way around. So I would say that you could rotate it in theory all the way around, but you're going to feel friction every time you try to do that. It's going to look up only by that far. It's going to look down, yeah, and also can rock back and forth as well. The upper torso, again, you got yourself a nice generous ball joint. Generous has also been offered here to the lower abdomen area too. The arms, again, rotate forward and back. Now, he has still the shoulder pads. The way they've attached the shoulder pads are right here and not right here. So you still have the freedom to rotate the arm all the way around if you want to. Because this is also softer plastic, you don't have to worry that, like, it doesn't feel like it's fighting against the arm the whole time. Still can pull off, again, a T-pose. You got the swivel there in the bicep. Still, unfortunately, still a single hinge. All the versions of the Armored Batman we've looked at so far have all had only just single hinges, but there's a lot more bulk, and it doesn't bother me too much that you only can bend a little less. Well, that's like 45, about a 45-degree angle bend. Hands, so again, rotate all the way around, whether you want to use these hands or you want to use the other hands we've already looked at. Where are they? Where are they? Oh, they're over there. You can swap out those hands and they work exactly the same. Still got your ratcheted joints working for the legs. You, for the most part, can get almost a full split for that. You can move the legs forward. You can move the legs back. You can swivel at the top of the thigh. Double hinge again on the knee. No articulation down below here for the lower calf. But then again, you've got your ankle pivot up and down, an ankle rocker. Would you believe it? Again, toe articulation. What? Toe articulation? Yeah, it's on both feet too. Yeah, all in all, though, it's a nice looking set. I mean, to look at this, I clearly know that they wanted to kind of fill in figures that may have not been able to sell all well on their own. I mean, again, like we've already gotten ourselves a couple of armored suit Batmans. Ideally, though, in a perfect world, I would have loved to see maybe, I don't know, maybe swapping out the Knightmare Batman, this version of Knightmare Batman, in favor of a wet-looked, Superman. So that, again, like, you would have the two paired together. I'm trying to get these guys to balance right now. Ideally, again, I would have preferred really a box set where it would have had the broken up helmet Batman along with a wet Henry Cavill Superman rather than actually pairing another Knightmare Batman in there. The Knightmare Batman is still fine. It's one figure that I would have liked still to have in my collection, but I feel like maybe he probably could have been offered up separately as maybe a Platinum Edition release where he wasn't necessarily paired up with an armored suit Batman. But I know to get that, having then to market the idea of getting a 2-pack with Doomsday and a 2-pack then with a variant of Knightmare Batman, it probably made the most sense that they split up Superman and Batman, only for them to fight a little bit later on instead. Once again, Amazon saved the day, and I found this set for really cheap. I want to say it was even like $54, which, considering though that you've got 2 figures in this set instead of just the one, a 54 box set is not bad at all. In this case, of course, again, not only are you filling in what all the missed accessories are that we never got with the other releases, but we're also getting 2 variations on 2 figures that weren't all that bad in the first place. The Knightmare Batman, of course, now having the scarf covering the front of his face, and a smashed helmet that we get near the end of the big tussle between Batman and Superman. Still, some could make then the argument that they really should have packed Superman with the armored Batman and maybe either sold the Doomsday separately or at the very least had the Platinum Edition Knightmare Batman with the scarf instead. I think, again, they wanted to get as much stretched out for the possibilities of collectors wanting to scoop up these sets. Maybe there would be probably a higher likelihood that people would want to be obviously getting a battle-damaged, battle-armor Batman along with a Superman, and less likely probably people would be picking up the Platinum Edition Knightmare Batman. So obviously this, I think the bigger sell of this set would likely be the smashed helmet battle armor Batman. Maybe people would be less interested, and I'm just speaking from example, maybe be less interested in getting the Knightmare Batman. Still, though, nice two nice looking figures, and the big sell of this also is the fact that we finally get ourselves accessories. So if you sort of have been looking at all the other standalone releases and thinking, man, boy, is it ever a big bummer that we don't get ourselves the proper accessories, the proper weapons for at least Batman to use. All the weapons are basically all been hoarded and they are part of this set instead. So again, if you guys are interested, I don't have a link or anything for you. What I could only really offer you guys is this. Check around to Amazon. In fact, I probably could imagine that the sale is still going on for this set. They've marked it down considerably. A good time to not only get 2 figures that were already good in the first place when they were sold on their own, but also as well, all the accessories that we've been sorely missing this whole time. What do you guys think of this set? Let me know down below in the comments section. Do you also feel like maybe they've deliberately packed Knightmare Batman in here, where clearly a Superman would have made better sense? Let me know what you guys think of this set down below. If you guys also did enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. You can hit that subscribe and you can turn on that bell. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.